Welcome to this week's edition of 26 Minutes With, the show that honors those who are leading and making an impact and creating positive change on the planet and locally. I'm your host, David Cohen, and I'm really pleased to have this week's guest with us. His name is Gregory Johnson. Gregory is a proud, professionally prepared servant leader. So when we talk about leadership, there's the servant leader. Dr. Stephen Covey talked a lot about that in his work. Gregory brings a solid academic foundation with advanced degrees and a significant career working profile, applying the academic learnings and numerous personal and life experiences and applications of extended learnings. His life journey has been one of facing numerous personal and professional challenges while still marching forward in his quest to assist people and systems to exist and operate in a fair and humane manner. For much of his life, he has been among the first to reach a level of acceptance in the face of being constantly told that he couldn't qualify due to his race and ethnicity. He's a disabled Vietnam veteran with determination and ambition to make a difference for individuals and organizations of integrity and fairness. His nearly 20 years working as a healthcare administrator was a service-oriented platform, allowing him to assist direct care providers as well as patients. After 20 years in the healthcare industry, he made a conscious decision to transition to a more community-focused professional platform of nonprofit community management for an additional 30 years. This area of nonprofit service continues to be central in Gregory's life. He's professionally trained OD, which is in organizational development, leadership development specialist. And this is due to a modicum of success throughout his professional life experiences, personal growth and development, and his commitment to being a difference maker for individuals and organizations. He just turned 75, and he's still committed to making a difference and bringing forth positive results for people. He has multiple degrees, postgraduate certifications, and various global memberships, including being a member at large of the United Nations and the soon-to-be president of the United Nations Association USA Ohio chapter. He is certified as a professional leadership assessment specialist while also holding membership in the American Psychological Association and more. And we are talking today about true leadership, overcoming soul-crushing experiences, and still having the love and the compassion to give back to others and make a difference. And that's what Greg Johnson embodies. He's joining us from his home office in Cleveland, Ohio. Gregory, welcome to 26 Minutes With.
Good morning. Hello. How are you? I'm doing great. Thank you for welcoming me. And I'm not sure who you were talking about as you gave that robust background, but I'll adopt it. No problem for the time being. Thank you.
Does it amaze you? You just celebrated your 75th birthday. As you look back, sometimes you reflect on our life. Does that amaze you that you've accomplished all that?
Oh, yes. That's it's an age I never envisioned I would reach. I'm a Vietnam vet. You mentioned that I'm a vet. I reached a point in my life where I said, if I reach age 28, I will have accomplished a great deal just by living that long. Okay.
Yeah.
Here I sit at 75. And there's been a number of ups and downs and challenges and what have you, but there's this determination in me to make a difference in someone's life, either individually or organizationally or both. And it's kept me going. And here I sit at 75 years of age, recharged, and ready to go and take on the world. That's why you mentioned the United Nations as a platform. Very appealing. Prior to that, just a little side note. My wife and I had been involved. We created a nonprofit focused on fatherhood. And we were doing fatherhood throughout the world, in
Hmm.
Tanzania and some Sao Paulo and in South America and Manila and places like that. Um, and it was fine. We were doing it as independents through our nonprofit and focusing on fatherhood. And then we changed. We changed our focus to that of parenting overall. And we grew our nonprofit from a fatherhood focus to a parenting and a family and community focus. And the United Nations became an interesting partner in that. On June 1st every year, it started in 2012, they have this day called the United Nations Day of Global Parents. And we were one of the first groups to acknowledge that and celebrate it here in our hometown. We also did it in Florida. So, we've been growing, and I think things have been coming to us to tell us keep moving forward. Such as this opportunity on your podcast. Um, it's something that we have another friend that does podcasts. He doesn't do it on this topical area, and this is perfect. This is perfect. So I just think our Creator keeps feeding us because this is our purpose, and we should be doing this. And I'm happy.
Yeah. As you look back on your life, what are like maybe three of the proudest moments in either your work or your family life? Like what are you really proud of? And like where you pat your own self on the back.
Well, I seldom pat myself on my
I
back, but
know, so it's
that's
time.
not a part of my ego. But
What have you been waiting for?
I'm proud of my children. I have three
Hmm.
children. I was proud of my first child when she was born. That was amazing that I'd actually have a child. And I've been proud of each child. I've been with their mother when they were born. Same mother for all three. So, but I was with her, and that was those were proud moments. Going on to school, being accepted in college for one, um, from a graduate degree with a university that, from an outsider, doesn't normally accept people of my persuasion.
Hmm.
Um, Getting accepted, actually, they pursued me. And it wasn't an affirmative action piece, but they said, Greg, we've watched you. We know what you do in healthcare, and we think this is the right place for you. That was a proud moment. I don't know if it was proud, but I was excited, and I couldn't believe it when I received the correspondence that said that I had been admitted. I had to have someone else read it to me. I was so excited. Um, then getting through that experience, going on to subsequent academic experiences, um, and not so much for ego, but for additional information, additional learning that I could apply to other situations. It's been great. It's been great. Um, Forming our nonprofit, our second nonprofit that focuses on parenting and impacts families and communities has been a really, really, really big and important thing for me, because our focus is not on parenting, taking care of kids in the traditional manner. Our focus is on parents as the single most genuine leaders on earth. Okay. And that's been since the beginning of time. But we don't formally recognize parents as holding a position of leadership, when in fact, I personally think all discussions of leadership and positions leadership, their genesis is in the behavior and parents have done. So I created this thing within our nonprofit, which is Global Parenting Network, but um, this thing called the Parenting Ambassador Academy. So when people go through our academy, they become ambassadors, and they're proud to become recognized as ambassadors and what have you. enough of that. Okay. But those are proud moments. Okay.
I'd say. Now, we met, you and I, for those tuning in and listening, through a leadership session we do every week. It's with Dr. Lance Secretan, who was a guest of ours a few weeks ago, and it's called Inspiration in the Cloud. And you live, breathe leadership. And I do want to talk about the global parenting network that you've created, but I also want to talk to you about you've lived a life of service, and you even say servant leadership, and you've embodied what you call 6 pillars of living a full life well lived. Are you okay to share those? What the 6?
Well, actually, the 6 pillars of character. I just gave a talk on this a couple weeks ago, and I pared it down to 6 because really there are 11. But the 6 I spoke of are trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. Okay, and not citizenship necessarily to a country or some type of uh, governmental setting, but citizenship to yourself, citizenship to your family, and citizenship to your community. I think it's important,
I
more
do too.
important than any of the others. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's those, I call those the 6 pillars of character. And they're a large part of what drives everything I do. And we impart this with these 6 pillars and more with our youth component of our nonprofit. We had 2 youth components. One is for young ladies. We call it the Pearls of, actually here we call it the Pearls of Cleveland, the Pearls, and the other is the Emperor, Young Emperors, which is for the young men. And we look at the Emperor Penguin. Emperor Penguin wears an outfit that looks like a tuxedo and what have you. So we want young men to be proud and what have you. But we reinforce the character side of young people as they're young. Now, there's a hitch to it. As we do this with the young ladies, as we do this with the young men, they're elementary age children. We bring them together so they can talk about the similarities, similar values they have, and around each of the 6 pillars, and that's good. But the really, really, really deep dive of this is when their parents are sitting and listening to that, and they started making a self-assessment and taking it home and reinforcing the behaviors that are called for through the character elements, and it becomes part of the home and their households. And it's pretty exciting. It has been for years.
And what impact are you seeing with these kids in terms of, teaching, youth and young girls and young men or young boys, these 6 pillars? What impact are you seeing in them in terms of how they do at home, how they do in community, and how they do in school?
I think their overall behavior in each of those settings, okay, has changed. They're more focused. They're more polite. All right. They're more out. They're more reaching out and showing more compassion and caring around the platform of respect for other students and their instructors. We've seen a marked incline in their grade accomplishments, for example, and that has to do with concentration and paying attention to whatever, and not just paying attention, but accepting the value of learning, and that's important. It's very important. My wife she was excellent at this. We'd be in the supermarket or something, the store, and you could hear a young child going, "Oh, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Johnson," and the parent would go, "Who are you talking about?" And look around, it's my wife, and we're pushing a cart, and um, so we were getting through to people. This was when we did it here. We did it in Florida. We were in Florida. It happened a lot because the kids were like pumped up. They were really pumped up around the whole idea of respect and caring, and learning to trust one another. And it was just good. It was just great.
When did it start? When did
We
you start?
started doing it. We started doing that part of it in 2007.
Okay.
Okay. And it continued. My wife, unfortunately, my wife died in 2015. And I have been wrestling with the personal emotional impact of her death. I
Sure.
think you also know that I lost my son at age 19. So just dealing with the both of those, it took me a while to get my feet back on the ground, and then COVID hit, and COVID kind of threw everybody for a loop.
Oh yeah, still
Um,
is.
so we're recovering from all of that now, and
Yeah.
we're reassembling things. It's interesting because I think it's a big compliment, even though people say it's an insult. People try to copy what we've done. I went to speak with someone about assisting us in restarting, and behind my back, they were planning to take us over and duplicate what we're doing without me. Okay, so that to in a very, I don't know, a very peculiar way, that's a compliment to me, and then maybe that's how I think. But if it's of value to the point where others want it, I think it's a good thing. And it's all about helping people. It's all about helping people grow.
You know, I had on a young woman last week. We are talking about, youth getting into crime and youth justice system here in Ontario. And, you know, a big cause for crime is comes from the school. There's actually a documentary called The School to Prison Pipeline. And these young kids, when they're young, and that's who you're reaching out to, get labeled. You know, there was a fellow in the documentary. It's on YouTube, and he said, when I was a young kid, I wanted to be an airplane pilot. And you shared a similar story. That you faced, prejudice due to ethnicity and color. Yet when you didn't and you got accepted, that was like a glorious moment for you. So he wanted to be an airplane pilot, and the teacher said, "Oh, well, I don't think that's an appropriate field for you." And it's like, well, why not? So this sort of labeling, and it's not something like it started, you know, in the past few years. This has been going on for years and centuries even. So when you're labeled that you can't, or you shouldn't, or who are you to think like that, that's soul destroying. That affects lives for and self-esteem forever. And if a kid doesn't believe in themselves and have that, belief that anything's possible, that we can dream, we can, be whatever we choose to be, that's amazing. So when you're teaching these young kids character, and what I really liked is you said citizenship. When you're teaching those young kids about these qualities and they embrace it, what do you see in their sort of their self-esteem and how they carry themselves forward after the teaching and the work you're doing with the Global Parenting Network?
It's I think it's a product of discovery, and the discovery is not external, it's internal. It's like, okay, you're giving me permission to be me. Some of these kids realize that they may not articulate it in that manner, but they
Mm-hmm.
experience it in that way. And I'll tell you, let me go back to me, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
When I was a kid, my parents and my brother set me on the sofa and said, you need to stop thinking about going on to college. Okay. We, we people of color, we work at Ford Motor Company on the assembly line. Okay. And since your dad is there, he could probably get you a job working on the assembly line there, and that's a good job. It's, you know, they pay every day, they pay on a regular basis, so on and so forth. And I said, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to get my hands dirty. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do it. And I've never worked on an assembly line. Okay. That was in my home. That was in my home from my parents and my brother. My brother went on and he worked in the, on at Ford Motor Company on the assembly line. I refused to do that. All right. And fast forward, when I was about to graduate from college, and I was ordering tickets for the graduation. Um, my parents said, "Are you really graduating?" They hadn't paid attention to me. They said, "You're really graduating from college? Why do you want to do that? Okay, that's not something Black people do. Okay, all right, that's something white people do. Okay, and that's a world that we don't belong in. All right." I said, "Look, I'm graduating. All right, I'm getting tickets. You can come." My mother came, my uncle, my aunt, but my dad did not come to my graduation. All right.
Why do you
So I
think?
faced that. I faced that. Okay.
Yeah. Why do you think it is? Is it fear? Is it you know? Is it his own, like, realizing his own beliefs?
Well,
Perhaps
I think their own life experiences have painted a platform that has, it's like Swiss cheese. It lots of holes in it, and they
yeah.
couldn't accomplish anything. Um, and I respect that. All right, but for me, I build bridges over holes in any kind of surface that I'm not comfortable with. Okay, so that's the world that they knew. That's the world that they had been presented with. You know, I would tell you, when I was in high school, which was like 100 years ago. Now that everybody knows I'm 75. When I was in
Were
high
you in a
school,
one-room schoolhouse back then too? I'm just kidding.
when I was in high school, I attended a school that I lived in a community that was predominantly white.
Mm.
And in our high school, there were approximately 2,300 students, of which 50 were Black or African American. Okay. The school sent a notice to our parents and said, "We think your children should not be in this school because it's a college prep school, and they should be going to a vocational
You
school."
see, and that's what happened. That's what this guest we had, Jody, last
Yeah.
week said.
Yeah.
Yeah, same
That's
thing.
what happened. That's
Mm.
happened in the 60s. That happened in the 60s. Okay.
It's
And
happening now. In the
well, I know it is. I know it is. And I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And you know, the remarkable thing, the majority of people of color that graduated um, during that time period in the 60s, mid to late 60s, went on to college and are excellent professionals other places. And they've taken the experiences that we had, being told no, and use that to accelerate both their careers and the careers of their families and communities. So it's been like a launching point for us. We looked it in the face and said, no, we're not doing that. We're doing what we want to do.
Isn't it amazing that the power of shifting beliefs in kids, and the power of saying no to a status quo, what the impact that has. What was in
Well,
you that said no to status quo? No to I don't want to work on the assembly line, which there's nothing wrong with that. Because
no, I don't have anything against it. People
no,
do that and it's just fine. Okay.
yeah,
It didn't work for me. Okay. I
yeah.
had other ambitions. All right. And I own my ambitions. Okay. I'm still that way now. All right. And it's been part of my shield, part of my driving force throughout my life. All right. What creates that? I can't really tell you what it creates that. It's just in me. Okay. It's a part of my spirit, part of my constitution, and it's there. You know, I think, I don't know if I shared with you, when I was in grad school, the head of psychology didn't want me in the class, didn't want me in the program because of the color of my skin. And he was open with it. Okay. He even recruited another person who was of my persuasion and said that he would let him into the program if he would help get me out. This is the head of psychology at one of the universities I attended. And I learned this from the person because I approached him. The person that was there, I said, "Who are you, man? Where did you come from? Why are you here?" He said, "Greg, I'm here for this reason." Okay. Um, and I said, "Okay, that's good." And I was personally singled out by the head of psychology in a large family group setting. And afterwards, I approached the head of psychology. I said, "Sir, I understand what you're trying to do. You're not from where I'm from, okay? And trust me, while you may be very academically prepared, all right, you don't know enough to get me out, okay? So bring it." And he tried a couple of more things to get me out. In grad school, if you go below a 3.0, you can automatically be booted out, all right?
Mm.
He pulled some
Shenanigans.
shenanigans to get me out, and I appealed them and I won. He didn't like that, okay? Um, so that's just a couple examples of things that I've had to face. All right. In healthcare, you mentioned 20 years in healthcare. I was a healthcare administrator at a hospital that I'm not going to mention, but everyone knows them because they're second or third rate highest hospital healthcare system in the world. Um, Back in the 70s, I held the only position of a person of color in that organization, only management or leadership position of a person of color in that organization. One day, the CEO came to me and he said, "Greg, we don't know how you got into that position. We don't know how you were promoted to that position because we don't," and he said this, "we don't normally do that. Okay. We normally promote white male Protestants. Okay. White male Protestants. Okay. Obviously, you do not fit that profile, but I like you. Therefore, I'm going to support you in that position." All right. And I proceeded to open the door for other people of other persuasions to be elevated and what have you by negotiating and preparing and so on and so forth. Um, but one day, in the same institution, I lived on the opposite side of town that the healthcare institute, primary healthcare institution was at. One day, someone removed the lug nuts from the right front tire of my car,
Mm.
knowing that I had to get on the highway to go home. And fortunately, I could feel the car wobbling prior to me getting on the highway, and I stopped in time so nothing happened. It was done intentionally. It was done intentionally. Okay. So those are just a couple examples. I've got many more, but I'm not going to go through those, but examples of what I've had to face to get to wherever I am, and I'm not sure where I am other than helping people, and that's my commitment in life.
So you've raised a few really, really important.
I think I'm giving you more than you asked for, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
okay.
you are. So how do we, and even in last week's interview, how do we stop this cycle? Like, because it's been, as I said, hundreds of years. And when you go back to slavery and it's not just, a black issue. It's also, now, we Chinese, Oriental, the Jewish community, we all have faced some form of prejudice or discrimination or you're not allowed here. What do we have to do to really finally make the leap as a humanity and get over it, like get over it and empower each other? I like to live in a world where we're all like, we could not do what we want necessarily, but we can be our true selves. We can answer our own inner calling. We can live with integrity and those 6 pillars you mentioned. What needs to shift, Greg?
Well, I tell you what I try to employ, because I've had um, Jewish people working in my staff, different staffs and what have you, and I won't do a full black staff or anything like that. I intentionally diversify everything I do. All right. Um, one of the things I don't know if you could see this.
Yeah, so and for those
Oh, they
listening,
can't see this. That's right. This is a
he's got a
podcast.
booklet
It
called
says
Common Ground, right?
common ground, right?
Yeah,
Common ground. That's kind of my core. You know, we should be looking for common ground between us, amongst us. Okay. What do we have in common? What do we, you know, if you look at the six pillars, okay, that's one place to start looking. Okay. What do we have in common around these six issues around? Okay. And grow from that. And there's more. There's much more. I don't know if you've ever heard of the rites of passage. The rites of passage deals with unity and self-determination and community and cooperative economic purpose, creativity, and even faith. What do we have in common? Okay, faith, for example, doesn't matter what faith you are, but
mm,
oftentimes we're looking. For, we respect God. Okay, God. Okay, God. So and those, I think, common ground is important. I think it's something that we should push people for. What do we have in common? What do we have in common? Okay, versus our orientation. Our orientation has pretty much been about differences. We
yeah,
pay attention to differences and deficits. So we talk about what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong. Or as a child, we raise a child by saying, no, 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 no. Okay, we need to change our conversation. Okay, we need to change our conversation when a child does something wrong. Let's have the conversation and say, how do you think that occurred? Ask the child. I don't care if it's 3 years old. How do you think that occurred? Get them to thinking about it. And how could we have done this differently? Okay.
yeah,
There's a whole platform for that too. So, um, but common ground and helping people grow from where they are, I think is important.
yeah, I agree. We're with Gregory Johnson. This is 26 Minutes With. I'm your host, David Cohen. We're talking about leadership and impact. You know, you mentioned citizenship. And to me, citizenship is about ownership. And I remember a few years ago, there's a park near me, and I go on my morning walks, and the young kids play basketball and whatever at the park or baseball. And I see plastic bottles. This is like at the start of the pandemic, all over the ground. And yet, you know what's like 15 yards away are big blue bins where you can pop them in. And it's like even taking ownership of the earth. You know, if we start to care about even just the earth and we care about ourselves, our well-being, our health, self-care, self-love, things start to change. And I think if we're feeding our kids messages of opposite to that, I think you know, and opposite to taking ownership of where you live, even in your own community. It starts in your own community, it starts in your own home. I think things can really shift just by taking ownership and or as you say, citizenship. I equate them to being very similar. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. You know, some of the elements of citizenship that we talk about, um, it really talks about doing your share, and making home, making school comfortable, making school and your community comfortable, and the world comfortable. Just as you were talking about with the littering and what have you. Now, one of the things that attracted me, in addition to the parenting piece, to the United Nations was the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but there's 17 Sustainable Development Goals with the United Nations. Okay, and much of that has to do with the environment, has to do with the community, has to do with yourself, has to do with relationships, respect, and what have you. And it's a powerful, powerful platform that was introduced in 2015, and that's they have a goal of 2030 to accomplish much of this. I don't think it can happen because of the COVID pandemic. I think an allowance needs to take place there. So there's some discussion around whether or not the goal should be extended. But the the 17 sustainable development goals, I think, are important, and people need to familiarize themselves with them, just in the general terms, and then they can go back and look in depth at them. But they really apply to everyone, I think, in everyone's community and everyone's life. We have responsibility to make this world a better place. All right.
Yeah. And it's, you talk about that, and you talk about embodying these six pillars, or good character, or like you making a difference. You're 75. I still want to make a difference. I still want to make an impact in my religious upbringing. I'm not a holy roller by any means, but I do live by a concept called tikkun olam, which in Hebrew means to lead, to heal the world. That our mission as human beings is to make the world a better place from the time we come in to the time we leave.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
And we live in a crazy mixed up world, Greg. And I know you do work, and I'm going to get back to working with kids, but what wisdom are those leaders of companies, because I know you do a lot of leadership work within organizations and companies, what wisdom are leaders in these companies and organizations seeking from you these days? What are they wanting? What's in their hearts?
Well, I think many of the leaders are struggling with how to stabilize things following, and it's not over yet, but following the downside of COVID, the impact of COVID, both economically, socially, and what have you. Um, and they're being creative in the solutions that they present, but they're really not sure of what they're saying. There's a lot of insecurity around that. Um, so I ask people, or suggest that people back up, back up. As you, as a CEO, let's talk about your personal values, your personal ambitions, personal, and how you employ that through your work with your entire organization. Okay, and that's why my big pitch is inspirational, inspirational convening. And the reason I use it that way, inspiration, you and I have gotten a lot of that from Lance, who you just had on your program not too
Yeah,
long ago, and the training we've got from him.
sure. And the
And
group.
and yeah, we're in a group together. I meet with him twice a week, okay? But it's good. It's absolutely perfect. Inspiration. So I talk to CEOs about inspiration. What inspired you on a personal side, and then what's inspiring you about this organization that you're leading? Okay, what are the inspirational moments, inspirational experiences within this organization? Okay, are they yesterday's news? Can you use those as seeds to the future that you're building towards? And they said, well, Greg, I hadn't thought about it like that. I said, I know, that's why I'm here. To
Mm,
help you think like that, okay? But convene, because their job as a CEO is convening individuals and convening groups. And they could be a committee and or the entire organization, your board, and this, that, and the other. So if you do that with inspiration and with planned inspiration, okay, you'll see things changing immediately. Immediately, okay? They change in you and they change in those that hear and listen, all right? One of the things I talk about too is learning to listen. And you listen not with your mouth, but with your ears, okay? And I don't know if I have a little, if you can write the word listen, LISTEN, and you write the word of silent, SILENT,
right.
you'll see they're exactly the same letters in different order, but they're related and they're necessary, one to get to the other. All right. And I talk to people about that. Okay. That your mouth is not an ear. If it's open, you're not hearing. Okay. So those kinds of things are what I do. But I enjoy it, and people are starting to listen to me. And I talk about inspiration a lot now, a lot since we went through our training with Lance and we've been interacting with him. But convening is a behavior of a leader. If you're not convening in an inspirational manner, okay, you're not a leader, you're a manager. The manager follows a script. A leader looks at the script, also creates a script, and then mobilizes, mobilizes everything, all those that are carrying scripts and beyond, both today and tomorrow. I don't know if you've ever heard of appreciative inquiry. Have you ever heard of the expression? You haven't? Okay, at some point in time, those that are listening, write this word down, appreciative inquiry. Look it up. It's authored by Dr. David Cooperrider. All right. And it's a powerful, powerful, powerful interaction. And it talks about and David is doing, excuse me, Dr. Cooperrider. I call him David because he and I were classmates together 30 some years ago.
Wow.
But he's doing this worldwide. Um, he talks, he has this 4D concept. It begins with discovery. What gives life? What gives life? What gives life? And then you take that and he talks about dreaming. Dream. It's discovery, then dream, which is what might be. Let's look at possibilities and what have you. And then he goes on to design things based on discovery and dreams, design solutions, design activities. And then the fourth dream is destiny. Destiny. What will it be? What's the outcome that you'd like to see? All right. And David and Dr. Ron Fry are using this all over the world. All over the world. They keep saying, Greg, you need to write something because of my other platform, which is concentric leadership. And I said, well, you guys are doing great. I don't need to crowd your stage. But the 4D concept is powerful. And it's pretty much what you're asking me about. Okay. Um, discovery, dream, design, and destiny. Put those together. Let that formula work as a prescriptive measure to moving forward. And trust in yourself. Discover in yourself what gives life to you. That's that inspiration we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that young boy wanting to be a pilot.
Exactly. That's that inspiration. Okay. And then the dream, what might be. Okay. One day I may fly. Okay. I may fly and fly in that plane and what have you. Okay. And then how can that be? Well, I know there are steps that I need to take to get there. All right. Understand that. Design your plan, your life plan. Okay. Or design your organizational plan. Design your organizational plan. Don't just get stuck on a strategic plan. Oftentimes I hear CEOs saying, well, we need to work on a strategic plan. I'm like, no, you don't. You need to go back and work on your business plan, which precedes your strategic plan. Okay. Your strategic plan, your business plan has your purpose in it. The strategic plan is mobilizing purpose. They're like, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. I said, well, that's the reality of it. Okay. And then destiny. What do you want on the other end? Okay. Is it just money? Or do you want to satisfy people that are customers, clients, and employees and coworkers? And they're not separate. All need to be respected. All need to be respected.
There's an article.
I'm talking too much, I guess.
Oh, it's good. This is good. You're doing amazing. There was an article Lance shared in his session a couple of weeks ago, Inspiration in the Cloud, where he noted that 40% of all C-suite executives plan on quitting in the next 6 months. They've had it. So what does leadership have to be like moving forward for good leadership to take place? You've already alluded to it. What is it? What needs to happen in order for that? For executives to stay and to carry on, because if they're 40% want to quit and leave their jobs, high-paying jobs. So what do you feel needs to happen in order for that trend to reverse?
I don't know if I have a solution as much as an acknowledgement. Those that want to leave are leaving because they haven't really been leaders. They've been managers. Okay. There's a huge difference. All right. If they were leaders, they would have vision. They would follow that vision. They would work hard to help grow that vision. And they can't do it by themselves. They have to have people with them that will help them engage in the vision creation. And those that you have to have with you need to have vision too, that buy into. That's where the convening piece comes in. When I talk about inspirational convening, all right, you want to convene with people that have aspirations, dreams around the purpose for which we are existing in this company, in this organization, or what have you. And those folks that are leaving, the 40% are leaving because they're no longer being dictated to around what should happen. Many of them are afraid because their bottom line, their dollar piece is not reaching the goals and haven't been able to reach the goals that were expected of them in the last 4 years or so. Well, that's unfortunate because everyone understands the adverse impact of the pandemic we've been going through. And that's
Sure.
throughout the world. That's not just in one location, it's throughout the world. All right. So, but you can take that and grow from there. Sometimes you have to reinvent yourself. A leader has no problem reinventing themselves. There's another organization called Reinvention Academy. All right. I don't know if you've heard of that either. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, I've anyway, the Reinvention Academy, the leader of that, Nadia, she's an awesome lady. She's done TED Talks about reinvention and what have you. The need to reinvent means back up. Okay. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Okay. And let's look at all the pieces and parts and let's start rebuilding, certainly within ourselves and our ambitions and what have you, to move forward. We can do that. Each one of us can do that. Each person in a position of leadership. You talk about the 40% of the CEOs quitting or looking to quit. Okay. We had the great walkout not too long ago, some 45,000 people walking off their jobs.
Yeah,
And
by quitting, another.
well, yeah, a big part of that though had
Mhm.
to do with a lack of respect from the top down. All right. If you, you know, David, I don't know how old you are, but I know you're younger than me because most people on earth are. But for many years, we were told to go to school, go to college, get education. We needed so on and so forth. Even in my setting where we were told not to go, there was a driving force that said you need to go and get that. Okay, that's a gold ticket to get into different opportunities. But we push people to go to college. They graduate from college. They come into our world of work, and then we not me, but we as in this top down hierarchical, outdated, ancient structure of hierarchical management says we'll tell you how to do things. Well, no, we brought you in with the current, most recent training and what have you to contribute to this. You'll understand what we're doing. I can help you with your orientation, but how, through your eyes as an employee, as a member of our family now, how can you contribute to our growth and development for the future? We're not asking people that. We've not asked people that. And they go like, I went through 4 years of training. I went through 6 years of training in this area or whatever. And they're not paying attention to me. So I'm getting the heck out of here.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
happening. Okay.
There's motivation versus inspiration, right? So,
Right.
are you a company that's going to inspire, or are you going to motivate? And you motivate through fear, or you motivate through reward for hard work, or some people motivate like, yeah, you're lucky to have a job here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's very, very, very dominant. Okay, we motivate through penalizing people or
Yes.
threatening people. That's motivation. Okay,
Yeah.
inspiration is talking about possibilities and respecting what that person brings to the table. Okay, bring this to what's your perspective? I mentioned earlier about even talking to our children around how would they do this different. Okay, we could ask adults the same thing. How can we improve this? How can we make things better? Okay, based on what they have. I can guarantee you, in probably 80, 70, or 80% of the CEOs have a challenge because their methods and what have you are outdated. When you bring these other people in, they have more current information or methods to do things. But if you're ignoring them, what's the point in them being there? They're
Exactly.
saying the same thing.
Yeah. And it really starts with, when we're young, so you and your late wife started the Global Parenting Network. And in our talks off air, you feel that parenting is the foundation, and schools as well, but parenting is the foundation of where positive change in leadership can start. And it needs to originate from. Can you speak a little bit more about why you're so passionate about this work and why you feel that parenting is the foundation of where leadership really can start?
Well, I can give you a couple of examples, okay? Um, when we think of things that parents have innate skills that are really leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
And one I would give you is you said you have what? How many children?
I have one.
You have one? Okay. You recognize some things in your child's mom while she was pregnant. You recognize some things once your child was born. You recognize these things without calling them our modern day language of emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you knew when the mother of your child was uncomfortable or she was distressed or what have you, you recognize that. There was an emotional piece going on there that you tried to address and make her feel more comfortable. Okay. Same thing once your child was born, your child was inaudible to a point of being able to articulate, I'm hungry, I'm sleepy, I'm this, that, and the other. So they cry or they squirm or they twist and turn. You saw that and you saw the emotions and you experienced the emotions with them. And it was a clue for you to address them. So in our parenting piece, we point those things out as the innate side of exchange, but we talk more clinically about emotional intelligence, which is a formal leadership training for executives and people in management, emotional intelligence. Okay, um, by Goldstein, and it's a powerful platform. Let's talk about emotional intelligence. Do our parents involved in emotional intelligence? Absolutely. Even more basic, are parents involved in communications? Absolutely. Okay. Okay. Those kinds of things. Are parents involved in training and development? Absolutely. Okay. Okay. I can go on and on and on. Okay. The genesis of leadership, in my opinion, is the parenting exchange, the parenting walk, the parenting application. All right. And I don't need to tell CEOs that. I've talked to CEOs and they say, you know what, Greg, you're right. You're right. It's what I received and it's what I give at home. At home. Okay. My wife says the garbage needs to be taken out. I do that because I know that sanitary issues could arise if I don't do that. Okay. So I do that. All right. And that's part of our communications exchange. It's also a part of taking care of our home and what have you. So it's all there.
How
It's
do
not
we,
like it's new, but it's there.
right? So how do we support the busy parent or the single mom, raising teens in this, nutty world of, you know, mixed messages or negative messaging?
Well, I think by acknowledging that we understand the challenge that they're facing, okay, sometimes that's enough for a lot of parents to recognize that they're doing a big deal. When I talk to parents about their investment of stabilize their investment in stabilizing our communities, they're like, wow, I didn't know that. I say, yeah, stabilization of our community begins in your home and your neighbor's home. When your neighbor sees you doing things and they want to do the same thing, then you start building community. Wow. Okay. We didn't know that. Okay. And that's the investment is even deeper than that because you're investing in the future. Your behavior, your interaction with your child is investing in the future. Your future child may become, who knows? Who knows? May become a politician, may become a clergy, may become CEO of a company, may become someone that just works in a good worker in a store or in some capacity.
Or
But
an
they know
entrepreneur, you know, and
or
then
entrepreneur, or they don't have to even get to that point, but they understand the six principles. Okay, they understand about respect and all of that good stuff. All right, and it stays with them. You're building the future. Okay, they're building the future, and they stabilize your life because you're proud of them and their behavior as they grow and produce and become good citizens.
yeah. As we wrap up our interview today, what would you want our future leaders to know and embrace in their lives? You know, the younger generation,
Well, I
that
think it's young and old,
that
David.
yeah,
I think it's young and old. Okay. I
yeah,
think I think they need to take a deep breath.
hmm
Allow themselves to back up and just take a deep breath, young or old. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're the president, CEO of the largest company in the world, okay? Back up and take a deep breath, okay? Feel it. Feel it as you release that breath, okay? And let that breath embrace you and say, okay, this is me. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I in this capacity? And who do I want to be in this capacity? Am I there now? Or am I still working towards that end? If I'm working towards that end, what is it that I need to get there? Okay. Those things are there. One of the things that, and I don't like talking about me, but you ran down this list of things that I've done. I don't know if you've ever heard of an organization called Human Synergistics, but I was certified when you were a kid. I'm sorry, I was certified back in the 70s.
I
And I
was a
continue,
kid.
yeah, I continue to use this. Um, I'm certified as an assessment person. I apply assessments for leaders primarily. Okay, the assessment is not a test. It's not a test. Okay, it's capturing your thoughts, your values. Okay, and your internal opinions. Okay, and bringing them to light. And after the assessment, you go through. My assessment is composed of 240 words or phrases. That sounds like a lot, but it's not. That information comes to me. I have a system to analyze them, a formula, and and then I produce a report that says, David, you're very humanistic, or you're very power oriented, or you're very achievement oriented, or you're very affiliative oriented. I have like 12 different subsets and what have you.
Mhm.
Um, and give you that information. And we talk about it. We talk about it and why you responded like that. Okay. And let's start building from there. All right. That's part of taking that deep breath. Part of taking a deep breath is backing up and saying, who am I? And how can I find out more about me to be who I'd like to be, or to be as effective as I would like to be? Right. That assessment, I'm biased, but the assessment is a key instrument because it's difficult for someone else to tell you without knowing all that you know, because you don't really talk about you to the extent that you put your thoughts and phrases around your values, your commitment, your all those other good things to everyday people. You don't do that, okay? Because
No,
oftentimes we're protecting ourselves, all right? But it's a good exercise. So take that deep breath, learn more about yourself, and then look outside how you're applying all of that good stuff. All right. And it works.
and work on your with your strengths from, you
Work
know,
on your strengths. And the other piece, I'm gonna close with this. I guess I'm closing if you let me, but is look at yourself and then look at the different environments in which you're engaged and or responsible for. Okay. And the environments are either positively or adversely impacted by your behavior. So look at yourself and how you're impacting the environment, your company, in your home, in your community, what have you, even in your church, or what have you. All right. All right. The environments, they play a big part in who you are. Because oftentimes we're trying to be acceptable in those environments and what have you. And sometimes we have to sacrifice part of ourselves just to be in those environments. Okay. For example, if you're running a big corporation, you have a board. Your board may have expectations, and they may not fit 100% with you, but you're not going to tell them that they don't fit 100% with you or your personality, values, and temperament. But those things are there, all right? So your job is to convene as a convener, okay, in a way, and that's why we go back to Lance's inspirational platform. Not just say what you want, but say why you want it this way, and be able to legitimatize why you want to move the needle this direction. Okay, and people will buy into it.
Yeah. You want to sell the transformation that's
Yeah,
possible. Yeah.
yeah. Let me give you one example. I Many years ago there was a company in Florida that remained nameless. I somehow got my way into the CEO's office, and I asked him to be the honorary chair of one of my events. And the CEO headed up a company that was a $26 billion company, $26 billion company in 22 different countries. He did not do public speaking, but he told me, he said, Greg, I'm interested in doing this. Okay. Even though I don't do public speaking, I said, tell me. Um, you don't have to tell me why you want to do it. Okay. But let me help you out in the public speaking side. He said, well, I'm used to talking to my boards, my committees and what have you, not 500, 600 people, 1,000 people. He
Hmm.
said, and he made a gesture. He said with his hands, he kind of went back and forth. He said, my wife is a talker though. She talks a lot. I said, I tell you what we'll do. We'll make you two co-chairs, co-honorary chairs of my event. Okay. And he said, I like that. I like that. I said, forward me a photograph of the two of you together and we'll pitch it that way. His message to the world was that he's white. He came up in public housing, even though he's being paid at that time, he was being paid, his annual salary was somewhere in the area of 10 to $12 million a year, his annual salary. Um, he said, Greg, I grew up in the public housing and we got an opportunity. Our family got an opportunity, and my friends were all people of color, Hispanic, whatever, black, what have
Yeah.
you. None of them got the same opportunity. And I want to talk about giving that same opportunity to everyone that I got. Okay. We formed a dynamic relationship. It worked against me because my board became jealous of me. And they said, Greg, how do you get access to people like that? And I see this person and that person showing up at our events, and we don't understand his story. We've been here 35 years. We've never seen people like that at our events. I said, it's about relationships. It's about managing relationships. And so that's what I do, okay? And allowing them to express themselves and allowing them to be themselves. It's certainly in our one-on-one dynamic. And if they want to share it beyond that, and they've never been given that opportunity, I will provide the platform for that. I'm complete.
I really appreciate this. I wanted to, we got to have you back because we do a deeper dive. We didn't have time for the deeper dive today, so we got it all in one fell swoop. But I also wanted to talk to you about your journey in Vietnam. And are you okay to come back and we'll talk about
Sure.
what that taught you and
Sure.
lessons and the experiences, because that was very formative for you. So I want to thank you for this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Where do we reach you to learn more about you and the work you do?
Well, my website isn't, I haven't put it back up yet, so that's not there yet. I'm working on my website, and it will be titled C3 Leadership. And I will send you a notice when it's up and ready to go. All right. I have my website is up for my parenting. It's called Global Parenting Network. That's up. And it has been up. It needs to be upgraded, but it's there. But I will do that. I'm putting together a newsletter to share with people around leadership and leadership development under my C3 leadership. And we'll go from there.
Now, well, I guess one last question I'm going to sneak in. Here you are, you're saying, yeah, I'm working on my website and I'm working on C3 leadership and I'm, doing this. What would you want those 45 plus to embody in order for them to believe that they too can lead and make an impact at any age? Because I feel like the older you get, it's like the less engaged you are. What would that message be for somebody 45 plus to say, no, you can
Well,
make a difference?
I think, yeah, I've heard people say that, I'm getting older, I need to slow down, this, that, and the other. Okay, I don't buy into any of that at all because we have life experiences that can help the younger people grow. All right. And when we retreat or withdraw from being engaged, okay, that's another form of Alzheimer's to me, that we're setting into the system for the future development and growth of the world. All right. So, unless you're resigned to watching television, which there's nothing on television worth watching during the day,
No,
okay. Um, unless you're resigned to reading, which I do a lot of reading, okay, but needs to be reading things that are going to inspire you, feed you, so that you can feed others or what have you. Um, I think we need to remain engaged somehow, some way, volunteering. It could be through your church. It could be through the schools that are in your community. You can
mentoring.
find out what community organizations are within your arm length. Okay, become involved. You don't have to be an officer, but you can be involved. You can be visible. All right. You can become a voice in your community around politics. And politics is really about quality of life, and many of the people that are in politics now don't have a clue what quality of life is about, so they come up with legislation that is counterproductive.
Yeah,
um, so they need the voice of those of us that have experience and what have you. So the opportunity to remain involved is wide open, and I think it's mandatory. But I'm biased. You asked me a question, you knew I was biased when you asked me the question.
yeah.
Okay.
No, I agree. It's like, you got lots of time to rest after you're gone, so
Yeah, you do.
yeah,
I have this thing where I have embraced, and someone shared, I think Lance shared with us, we're spiritual beings living a human experience,
yeah.
which
Well,
means,
Dr. Covey talked about that.
yeah, which means that we're really here to just test it out, but we're going back home. Back home is spiritual. We're
Yeah,
spiritual beings.
yeah.
Yeah.
What a joy having you today, and then we're gonna have you back soon, okay?
Thank you very much.
That other part. For those that listen to us and follow us, 26 Minutes with is a show about inspiration, leadership. It honors those who are leading, making an impact, creating positive change on the planet and locally. I really appreciate you for listening and tuning in. Let other people know. And Gregory Johnson, what a joy having you. Thank you for this
Thank
today.
you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I'm honored to having been asked. I really am. So thank you very much.
It's been a joy. Thank you
All
so
right. Have a
much.
great day, sir. Have a
You
great
too.
day. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.